What if the love you tried hardest to avoid was the shelter that held you all along? In the house where every wall carried a memory, lived a man who had forgotten the sound of his own name. They called him son, but he'd hidden from that word long ago. For 30 years he walked with a locked heart, rooted in absence rather than belonging. His mother, Cristina, loved him with gentle consistency, but he fled that gentleness, afraid it would expose his hidden scars. Now with silvering hair, Cristina continued her vigil. A place set at her table every night, a folded napkin, a single spoon, and nothing more said than the rhythm of her solitude. "For when he comes home," she whispered to the empty chair, even though no one could hear. On a gray, rain-washed afternoon, 30 years of silence pressing his chest, the man paused in front of the childhood door. He didn't intend to go in. He only followed the scent of fresh bread, the same smell from a distant time. His feet answered before his heart. He crossed the threshold. The table was set, unchanging. Beside it, a simple wooden box tied with faded blue ribbon. Inside lay yellowed letters, unsent, never mailed. Each began, "I missed you today, but I do not blame you." He sat down, and without rushing, let time tell what words couldn't hold. Cristina's love was there, greater than any explanation, complete like earth holding root. Because there are loves that don't wait for answers. They wait for courage to come home. Some gestures are older than speech. They just need someone to notice them. He returned the next day, and the day after. Silent footsteps, eyes unsure where to linger. Cristina never asked. She just moved differently, adjusting the tablecloth, letting the kettle sing a little longer. One afternoon he found a box in her bedroom. Inside, a school uniform button, a napkin scrawled with his name in childish writing, a broken seashell, and tied with red ribbon, a lock of his hair. His, from some time he couldn't remember, but she had never forgotten. He closed the box gently. It didn't cut. It grounded him. He realized what had kept him standing wasn't his own strength, but the constant tenderness of someone who held him when he was lost. That night, Cristina left the porch light on longer than usual. He noticed, and left a note on the table. "I'm home." He didn't sign it. No signature needed. Because some bonds don't break. They just wait for the right moment of return. Time doesn't erase. It buries precious things beneath busyness. In the days that followed, he began to see the house anew. The crooked embroidery on the tea towel, the chipped paint revealing past layers, the kettle's frayed handle that still warmed the water. It was as if he was walking inside someone's longing. Cristina, in her quiet devotion, continued, gathering fallen leaves in the yard, running fingers along dusty spines of old books, inhaling fruit before placing it in the bowl. Each gesture unspoken, demanding nothing but recognition. He found a childhood sweater in the closet, threadbare but still holding her scent. Holding it to his face, he felt himself shrink and stretch, remembering a boy with scraped knees who found solace in her arms. On the porch, a rocking chair creaked in an empty rhythm. He sat. Cristina draped a shawl over his shoulders wordlessly. He didn't say thank you. He only clutched the fabric and closed his eyes. Because some love needs no words, only to be lived again. Some love isn't loud. It's woven into the everyday, shaping us without fanfare. On a late afternoon that painted the walls gold, Cristina opened the old cedar chest in the living room. Inside lay a hand-embroidered tablecloth, one she'd made years before any memory of hurt. She spread it gently over the table and murmured, "This is older than my longing." As her fingers traced each delicate stitch, he felt something awaken inside. A memory threaded into the fabric. He watched quietly as she smoothed the cloth with care. In that moment, he believed the embroidery held his name, stitched invisibly among the loops and knots. It was as if everything Cristina touched carried the intention of tender nurture. That night, he dreamed of a tree growing in the center of the house, its branches reaching toward windows, cradling each abandoned corner. He woke with the scent of earth still in the air. Quietly, he joined Cristina in the kitchen, where she was kneading dough, "It's for tomorrow," she said, not turning around. He understood. Tomorrow wasn't just the next day, it was the promise of renewal. Because sometimes, a mother's love is preparation before we even crave return. True presence is love made visible, simple, persistent, eternal. In the evening that followed, he saw Cristina tending a plant at the center of the table. She clipped away withered leaves and whispered, "If left untended, life chokes on its own growth." No lecture, just care. He realized then what real love does. It cultivates, it sustains. He began to join in, washing dishes, sweeping the porch, folding laundry. Each act a quiet gratitude, unspoken, but deeply felt. It wasn't about chores, it was about returning what had always been given freely. One morning, he found an envelope on the table. Inside was a letter, his mother's handwriting, decades old, folded carefully. It read simply, "What I gave you was love." He wept, not from pain, but recognition. For the boy he'd been, the man he was, and the mother who waited without condition. That evening he lit a candle in the living room, not for ritual but as a beacon, a sign that he had come home. Because perhaps the greatest gift a mother ever offers is the chance to come back to yourself. Because a mother's love doesn't fade, it endures. And one day when you're ready, it lets you feel whole again. Some bonds endure beyond speech. They grow through shared breaths and silent rituals. Days settled into a soothing rhythm. He and Cristina moved through the hours as though the world had slowed. She dozed in late sunlight. He brushed her hair with deliberate gentleness, each stroke an unspoken apology. Words no longer held meaning, only touch confirmed belonging. One afternoon, while sweeping the porch, he uncovered a seashell buried in dry soil. He recalled her childhood words. "The ocean lives in what truly listens." He cleaned it and placed it in the center of the table. When she saw it, she smiled softly. "I remembered you would find it." Some mothers know your return before you even arrive. Her hands had grown tender and calm. She baked quietly, the aroma of bread layering memory into the house. She hemmed a frayed handkerchief with careful, loving stitches, an action rooted in decades of care. In witnessing, he learned this: mothers cultivate eternity in the ordinary. That evening, Cristina sat in her favorite chair, eyes half closed, basking in dusk's hush. She whispered, "Thank you for coming back." Words were spare, but his heart felt them as if carved in light. Because a mother's love doesn't require reunion, it honors our quiet awakening. Some homecomings don't end, they become living sanctuaries. On the morning of Cristina's birthday, July 27th, he woke before dawn. He lit the stove, steeped tea, and gathered wildflowers from the garden. He arranged them in a modest vase, their colors shading the table. He placed her favorite teacup beside them and gently laid a card that simply read, "Happy birthday, Mom. Today, I am the son you always believed I could be." Cristina looked into his eyes, her gaze deep, a mirror of love unbroken. They embraced in the quiet kitchen, not to fill the years of distance, but to honor every living moment together. Later, he found an empty frame and placed it gently on the wall. Inside was a faded photograph of Cristina and himself as a child, imperfect, slightly askew, but real. Below, in soft pencil, "Here dwells an unfading love." As evening arrived, he lit the candle in the corner of the living room, its flame dancing in her and her silvery hair. He whispered, "Today isn't just your birthday, Mom. It's the day I came home." Because some anniversaries aren't about years, they mark the rebirth of what was always ours. If someone reading this feels a hidden thread of love still calling, light your own quiet candle today. This is for Cristina, and for all of us who remember home.